What you want to do is either write this down or you can repeat it. So Dwayne, can I get a refund after the morning of lesson 1? And the answer to that is no. Okay? And so let's move on here. Okay, gang? So this is how we keep track of listings and sales. How we keep track of listings and sales. And let's see what I got here. Keep track. Okay, so I mentioned, when I showed you the commitment letter, I basically went over what I'm about to go over. So I'm going to do it again. So when you told me how many listings you got, that showed you that's how we're going to count it in the class. So every time you get an MLS listing, we're going to count it in the class. We actually have pages in the manual. They're going to come up on the screen here on how you keep track. And I'm actually going to give you some. Now you all have a name tag. And for the in-person training, you get a name tag and you're going to get a star. A star. I know this sounds like you're back in grade school, but these stars become very powerful. So see those little stars? They're just stickers. And the name tag that you get, once you start putting the stickers on your name tag, so if you're at home doing this course, go ahead and get yourself some stickers. Because there's still another thing that we're going to show you how to put together that's laminated, and you'll be able to put some stars on that as well. Excuse me, give me a second. All right, so MLS properties, not exclusive, not pocket, not right to sell, only MLS listings. Now, the reason that we're going to do that is because every single one of my classes, including this class, including you that's watching this, will agree with something. I'll say, do you want me to teach you the best way to do real estate, or the second best way, or the 5th best way, or the 10th best way? Do you want the best or some other way? Everybody always answers, show me the best way, Dwayne. Great, no problem. What's the best way to market a listing? MLS. Nothing tops it. There's nothing else that makes it easier to list. Now you're going to hear the odd little story where it said, yeah, if somebody says they're going to buy it, you can go and do it without and all. Don't listen to any of that stuff. Properties need to be on MLS for a number of reasons you're going to find out. But first of all, more exposure, the law of supply and demand says if you get more exposure, could get more showings, could get more money for the seller. Our fiduciary duties say we have to try. The other thing for financing, even the mortgage broker will tell you it's much easier to get that done faster or even get it done with a highlight sheet. But there's a number of other reasons I'll tell you about. I just thought I'd throw that in for a second. Okay, so we've got MLS listings we count, and you get a point. I told you buyer listing or exclusive agency, buyer agency, exclusive brokerage, buyer brokerage, whatever you call it. We count those in the class. Just like what I was asking you what you did in the last 12 months. And we also count sales. So when you get a listing that sells, we count it, and when you get a buyer sale. But the way I want to count it in the class is as soon as the buyer and seller agree on a price and it becomes a conditional offer, or pending as you might call in some places, before conditions are removed, we count it. Okay, now I know conditions might not get removed, it might fall apart. Don't worry about that, I'll tell you about that in a second. But just right now, if you go out and write an offer tonight and the buyer and seller agree on price and the condition date is 5, 8, 9, 10 business days from now, you count it now, but when you remove conditions, you don't count it again. And if it falls apart, here's what you would do. You would not remove it from the stats. You would be able to count it again if you got another offer. But don't go ahead and try to let deals fall apart just to get more points in the class. Of course, you wouldn't do that. So, it's just because if somebody gets a deal firmed up the night before graduation, before the 8 weeks are up, they can count it, that's all. It's not a big deal. I'm just trying to reward you for work done. And, it works for the class. Okay, gang? So next we've got awards. So there are a number of different ways to do my program now, okay? So again, I could fly into your city, I could see you every week, you could be on a team, we manually put in the stats, we interact a lot more. It's the best way to do the course. But I also have it where a person can do it on their own, or a few of you could buy it and do it in your office, okay? So the second best way is, you may not be able to role play as much, you may not be able to have teams, you may not have the stars, you may not have name tags, But do the best you can, okay? Follow the recordings. Try to feel like you're a part of the class when you're going through this. You're going to hear our audience a lot more as the weeks go on. And I'm just doing the setup right now. And the truth of the matter, the hardest part of the course is the first segment, or the morning segment of lesson 1. Because I'm trying to get you all organized, and everybody's looking at some recordings for the setup, or we're doing it in person in some cities. You're doing it on your own. So the way that you can be accountable to me still, so in person it's easy. I get into the room at 9 o'clock every week. And you can come early. I meet with the captains at 9:15. 9 captains, you need to be here by 9:15. We have a little captain meeting, and then all the students need to be here by 9:30. And we'll talk about that some more in the next slide. But for those of you that are at home, you're thinking, well, how can I be accountable more than just to myself? Well, your accountability page, you will get a digital version that can be put on Google Drive. And you can go in there and fill in your stats each week, and I can see it. Or you can just send it to me. That's fine too. And we can have a conversation as much or as little as you need. So in the live in-person training, we have top producer awards that we give away at the end of the class. Let me just put this up here. There we are. And it looked something like this. I just have a few samples here. But there's the top, you saw this a minute ago, the top producer award. Top lister award is pretty well the same award, maybe one size smaller with saying top lister. And then there's another one called the productivity award. There's this one here. And this one here is anybody, and this is again for the in-person training. And that's for people that buy the recordings. Price point is adjusted, but it doesn't include any of this. But you still should aim for it. Productivity award is to do 8 listings on MLS during the 8-week course or more. As soon as you hit 8, you're going to get one of these if you're in the in-person training. All right. Then we have team captain awards. They're a little smaller, of course. So every team has a captain and an assistant captain. We also have the Most Improved Award. I love giving the Most Improved Award away. The peers and the agents in the class vote on who's they saw improve the most on each team, and then the person that got the most votes, I have to figure out who that is, and then they get the Most Improved Award. I think it's a very impressive award, I might add. And then, of course, we also have some trophies that we use in the class. And this one here, you can see I have them a little compact for packaging and travel, because the bigger ones we used to have were always breaking. So I just got these little ones, and so they still serve the purpose. So it says top, like first place has our logo there. And so if Team A, B, and C are competing against each other, and Team A, their weekly average is 1.6, and Team B is 1.7, and Team C is 2.0. Obviously, Team C is the top team of the week. They'll get the trophy on their table for the day. Now, the objective of Team A and B over the next week is to get their stats up so that they dethrone or take the trophy away from Team C in our in-person training, live in-person training. So, if the numbers are changed and Team A is the top team of the week, they will not only get the trophy from Team C, but they will tell Team C how to deliver the trophy. And sometimes you'll see the conga dance with 10 people and coming over and saying we're not worthy and dropping it off on their table. And of course, Team A won't want to lose the next week because they're going to have to do some sort of dance or jig and say the same thing. So your goal is to keep this every single week. See that again? First, every week. It's a really good trophy to have because you're doing good in the class, your whole team is, and you're making some good money and having the time of your life. Isn't that right? So let's go into our weekly report. So our weekly report, don't zone out here, gang. Stay tuned. Live in the moment. Don't pause this thing too much. Dig right into this. This is an amazing career. This is very serious stuff for your success. And keeping track is one of the most important things a top producer can do or does. All this came from people that are in the 5% club. The ideas from all those kind of agents, top producers, okay? So they always keep track of what they're doing. They keep track of their appointments each week, their attempts, their conversations, their listings, their offers, their closings, their pen, you know, everything. So we do that with 2 different forms in the class. So as you can see, it says weekly report. Go ahead and put your name on there right now. Put your team name. So your team A, your team B, your team C. And if you're watching it remotely, just put online training or something like that, okay? And you know, you guys know your team name also. So you've got your name, and then for team, you put the letter and the team name. So if it's listing leaders or greenbacks, team A, the greenbacks, okay? Now, if you look at the sheet, it says that you really have to remember to hand in this sheet to the team captain by 9 a.m. each week. The only time you wouldn't hand it in by 9:30 is if you had pre-scheduled or told us in advance that you can't make it. You would send it to them the night before by email, let's say, scan it by email. They need to see the form because they're supposed to sign it too. Let me show you how this works. So you arrive next week, and the people online, you can use me for accountability or yourself, but just make sure you still use the 1 week segment between lessons, booking 3 appointments, keeping track of your stats. Sounds good? So, and you know, I have 2 programs. I have the 8-week productivity challenge, then I have my momentum coaching program. For people that finish or graduate from the 8-week program, they can go right into momentum coaching. There's a monthly fee, but they're coached by me one-on-one every week, complete access to me, and we still do weekly reports each week as well. It's quite successful. So when I'm meeting with them, I just bring it up on Google Drive. But in the class, what you do is you'll arrive before 9:30 and you'll fill in your stats. So you'll put in how many listed properties you had on MLS, how many buyer listings, you know what that is, right? How many listings were sold this week and how many buyer sales. And you'll put the total in there. I don't know why a lot of people miss that little spot, but the total is important because the amount you have in the total is exactly how many stars you get in the live in-person training to put on your name tag. So when the captain asks you how many stars do you get in the team huddle next week, you don't have to figure out what it is. It's just the total right there on A6. So please remember that, okay, gang? So you got your total. And then in our live training, we have sponsors. So a couple classes I have coming up. I have a home inspector in the course. A mortgage broker, like it says there. A lawyer. Some places it's a notary public. And then a home inspection company. And when I have there isn't really many other ones I will have. Those are the 3 main ones that I like to use. Title insurance maybe when I'm teaching in the States a bit more. And so for exclusive programs for one company, they may have other companies or services they offer their agents that they want me to include. All of my sponsors will always have a table in the back where they can put their brochures and their magnets and pens and stuff like that and their banners. And if you use them, you just keep track each week if you use them, but only the people that are in the class. If you use a mortgage broker or lawyer outside of class, you don't need to tell us who that is. That's fine, okay? So also, you want to put down how many days you're in the office. Now, days in the office also includes days at work that you work. So there can be one day, and ideally, I'd love to see you have an office at an office. So if you're with ABC Realty, they have a big office and they have 20 realtor offices that they rent out for whatever each month. Take one. You'll make money off that. I'm not kidding. Or if you're at a company that is more online, let's say, then go to the nearest business center and rent yourself a little office. You won't regret it. That's the best thing you could do. Now, every time you go into that office, it counts, or every time if you go straight from home to a listing appointment, it counts. So put in the number of days, and you may have only worked 2 hours that day, still counts as a day worked, or you may have worked 10 hours. But put down how many days you worked at the office or out in the field, same thing, okay? So in the class, I'm going to tell you to work a minimum of 5 days a week, a maximum of 6, I might add. So if you book some listing appointments, so make a note of this where it says appointments booked and appointments attended. We're only counting seller appointments, not buyer appointments. And I'll continue to tell you why as we go, but the main idea is we're focusing on listings, we're focusing on sellers. Buyers will just fall in our lap. We're not looking for them, they will appear on their own. Don't worry about them. Let's focus on seller appointments. So don't put in the wrong stats, gang. I've seen that many times too, right? They're not paying attention right now. Okay, gotcha? Are you listening? Okay, and it's just, we're not putting in buyer appointments, just seller appointments. So if you book a couple of listing appointments by next week, you put them in. If you attended one of them, maybe the other one's a week later, right? So the numbers may not be the same. If you can pull your broker into your into this for accountability, that means every week you send this to them so they can see what you're trying to do and get them to initial it. It'll just help you make more money. So what did I say earlier? Removing the option to fail. So how did we do that? So I got your money to pay for the course. No refunds. I got you put on a team. Got you to fill out a program commitment letter, right? Got you to keep track of your production. Got you to include your broker. You'll see that your team captain has to sign. And I'm going to tell you by the end of today's lesson to go home and tell your whole family about what you're trying to accomplish in the next 2 months. And I'm also going to get you to figure out a nice goal or reward for yourself 8 to 10 weeks from now. And you're going to actually get a visual to show that you're not only going to do it, but you've already got it planned. It's a done deal. So the option to fail is gone. I mean, you're too far into succeeding, too far that turning around and starting to fail would be too hard. Okay, you just couldn't do it. So you with me? Is that right? Okay. So let's see here. We've got sit with your broker, fill this out completely each week, hand it in by 9:30, or if you're doing it on your own, make yourself accountable to myself or to yourself as well. Okay, so in the course I'll randomly check to see if you're using this properly, and we also have another form called Program Production, page A7, A for admin. In this section, as you can see, is in the front of your manual. I want you to keep track of every transaction as you get them. So the other page shows your transactions and sales, but it also shows how much you worked, how many sponsors you used, and how many appointments you booked. This one is just pretty straightforward about, I got a listing, so you put the date. So whatever the date is, when you get the listing, put it there, then you check off L for listing, then you put in the address, and under L on the dollar amount, excuse me for a second, that's called dollar volume, you would put the list price. But you don't have to do all the zeros or the first 1,000, you know, where even if it's $499.9, just put 500K. You know, if it's $889,500, just put 890. Like, that's close enough, okay? Just round it up, 890 or even 900K, but just put the K, which stands for 1,000. There's not enough room on there, that's all I'm saying. I needed to put a little extra room for you to put the people's address or their name if they're a buyer. So that being said, if you get a buyer agreement, you put it on a separate line, don't put it on the same line. Only one transaction per line. So if your listing sells, use a separate line. If you get a buyer agreement, you put the date, you put the for BL, you put the buyer listing, put their name in there, and under BL, put the amount they're pre-approved for. So if they are able to buy up to $1 million, then you would put 1M in buyer listing for the dollar volume. Okay, now be realistic. If they're buying a lot less than they're pre-approved for, then put the range or the high end of the range that they're looking to buy, even if they're qualified for $500,000 higher. All right, that makes it even fair for the whole class. All right, and then so I got a listing, it's on the first line. I got a buyer agreement, it's on the second line. My listing gets an offer and they agreed on price, so it's pending or it's conditional. On the third line, I would put that. I would put the date, I would put LS, check. I'd put the address, and over in LS, I would put the price that they agreed upon. So if it was listed at 700, I can't remember what number I said earlier, but you came to an agreement, buyer and seller, and it's firmed up at 690, you put 690 in LS. And of course, if your buyer ends up buying a property, and the buyer wants to, or it firms up with the seller, it's the same thing. New line, you still put their name, you check off S for sale, and in the dollar value you put what its conditional offer is firmed up at. Fair enough? Okay, so that one, you keep track. We use this for graduation, but for those of you that are doing it individually online at home, you can send it in to me so I can see how things are going periodically. This page here, I would recommend you use it even when you're not in the training. It's nice for you to analyze how many listings and sales you got every year. So I might, if I were you, I would probably have, you know, maybe a couple dozen of these printed off in a book and just start using them. And then you could even have per year, you could have a journal, you could have notes on the back of each page for certain things. And the next thing is a strike letter. So the strike letter right across the top, that we'll talk about this in lesson 4. And this is referring back when I said, you know, we're going to have a strike letter, or we're going to have a strike system in place. And every time you have an incomplete assignment, take your strike gracefully. You can only get 1 strike a week. So the earliest you can use this strike letter is week 4. But you can still use it in week 5, and week 6, and week 7, or probably not past week 6 anyways. But it says here, as you know, a strike letter was put into place to help you to increase your production. And since you have 3 strikes, you need to fill out and hand this letter in to your trainer. Please have your team members sign below to show their support and indicate the reasons for the strike and which lesson they were given, preferably. You put your name onto there. There's no spot written for your name, but when I ask you for your signature, sometimes I can't make out your name. So write your name and then put your signature there. Once this has been given, handed in to me or the trainer, then we can help you in areas that need support. And all your strikes are removed, okay? So remember, commitment is one of the keys to success. Now, you'll sign it, and then when I sign it, I'll circle the fact that you have no strikes anymore. So yay, no strikes. Then I'll circle a phone number on the bottom of that page, and I'll say, you phone me, and we will set up either a time to talk on the phone, or better yet, do a Zoom meeting for about 30 minutes so I can help you figure out what the struggle is, because I got to get you productive, or I have to get you to the next level. So it's a good thing, isn't that right, gang? All right, so the next thing here is, by the way, before we go into the next part, I just want to remind, for in-person training, all the captains need to meet me at lunch. It's going to take just about 5 minutes. We're going to review a few things with you, and I'm going to explain to you how we do the team huddle for next week. But just so everybody knows, so the captains don't have to try to explain it too much, next week you need to arrive before 9:30, hand in your page A6 completed to your captain, assistant captain by 9:30. After you hand in your stats, you can go do whatever you want. I'll start at 10. But typically we'll have a sponsor get up for a little Q&A. Sometimes a mortgage broker will talk for 10 minutes, then the home inspector, then the lawyer, or sometimes it's just 2 of them and then they rotate. But it's very informative for you. It'll help you to, again, make more money in less time so you have more fun. And the captains will be collecting the stats. And once they have the stats, by 10 to 10 every week, they have to hand in the stats for the, I have them here somewhere, where was it? I must put them away. Let's see. Oh, here they are. So, just hand in the stats to me by 10 to 10, and then I can put them in the order of the runner-up team, first runner-up team, second runner-up team, and then the top team of the week for us to do the stats. At 10 o'clock, the sponsors will be finished talking, and then I will get up and I'll do a little intro each week, and I'll talk a little bit about what you should have done, how your experience should be, and what you're going to get in today's lesson. This will happen each week. After about 5 minutes of doing that, I'll ask you all to go into a team huddle. And it's nice if you can vacate the room, okay? Or, you know, maybe one group does a team huddle, like a football huddle, right here in the corner, another one down the hall, another one in the lobby. And the captain, as I mentioned, you know, what you needed to do in your huddle today is similar, but a little different starting next week. So in lesson 2, you have your team huddle. You're going to make sure that everybody has a goal or reward to pledge to everybody on their team. And it'll be laminated. It'll be put on the back of the top producer declarations. I don't have everything on the back of this, but if they did have it, I'll explain it right away, how they're going to have a picture on here and a couple things to announce. But you're going to have it laminated, and you're going to say, my goal in 8 to 10 weeks is to, and they'll show the side that shows the holiday they're going on or the car they're buying, something like that. We'll get to that in a bit. Then they're also going to say a quick success story. A good success story that happened over the last week, probably in your business life, but it could also be in your family life or your personal life. And it'll be what I call the Reader's Digest version. That means just, last week I prospected. The guy said he would sell his house. So I went over and followed some of the tips or the techniques from the course, and I got the listing. And that's a good success story. Or, you know, I've been in real estate for a long time and I've never really intentionally had taken time off regularly. And last week I told my wife we're not going to work on Sunday at all. I had one of the other guys at the office, I just forwarded my phone to him. And wow, to have a whole day to not think of work was so refreshing. I just can't say enough. And that's a good star story. Or it could be, you know, that's the family side of it. Or it could be personal, where, you know, I've been meaning to go to the gym for years. And I didn't realize how important it was until I heard it again in the class. And so I went and got a membership, and I went to the gym 3 times last week by myself. So, wow, amazing star stories, right? So then the team will pick the top star story out of the group of 10. So everyone pledged their goal or reward, set a success story, told the captain how many stars they get next week. Some will get 1 star for their name tag, some will get 2, some will get 5, you know, and it's pretty cool when the name tag starts to build up. And then you got to practice your motto or war cry. That little cha-ching thing. We're listing leaders, we list to last, cha-ching, rah-rah, you know, and a little bit of fun here, right? You know, and so there's 4 things you do at every team huddle. All right, let's see, what's next? So we had the team huddle. Oh, that brings us to the top producer declarations. As I mentioned, I just have my top producer declarations laminated. I've had this like this for years. But just to show everybody as an example, that they'll have their goal or reward on the back. But so I'm going to get you to tear this out of your manual right now and trim off the sides here when you have a chance. And so it looks like this. And each week, you know, again, just to let you know how it'll start next week in lesson 2, after 5 minutes of my intro, I'll let everyone go to their team huddles. They'll do the 4 things. You'll come back. I'll have the 3 success stories, 1 from each team, come up first, say their success stories. And, you know, when people say their name, we always get to go, hi, Dwayne. You know, well, don't use my name every time, but you know what I mean. And we just get everyone to smile a lot. And we have a little fun, a little goofiness in the morning just to get us all loosened up, because it's pretty serious stuff after that, you know. So then we do a drum roll for the runner-up team. We put the stats on the board, and then the next runner-up team, and then the top producing team, and pass the trophy out, or it gets transferred with the conga line or something like that. And then we all stand up and do our top producer declarations. Let me tell you what they are, and then we'll read them all together. Even those of you that are watching remotely or online, we're going to read them as well. So the first one, they all line up with the 8 keys to success. And so right after this, we're going to get into the 8 keys to success. So you're going to see that the top producer declarations, there's 9 on here, but 8 of them are the 8 keys to success, and the last one speaks for itself when we get there. So, as a top producer, I have a great attitude. Hey, first key to success, attitude. As a top producer, I book a lot of appointments. Second key to success, appointments. As a top producer, I generate a ton of leads. Third key to success, leads. As a top producer, I am a powerful presenter. 4th key to success, presentations. As a top producer, I show sellers how to pick the right price. 5th key to success, price and net. As a top producer, I have important information for my clients. 6th key to success, OHTs, objection handling techniques. As a top producer, I have an awesome business plan. 7th key to success, business operations. As a top producer, I manage my time effectively. 8th key to success, time management. And we wrap this up with our declarations as saying, as a top producer, I make my client's #1 goal my #1 goal. So let's all do this together. Let's make sure you tore this page out of your manual. Let's play along, because every little thing matters on helping us to make more money in less time so we can have more fun. All right? So after 3, let's all kick in and say this together. 1, 2, 3. As a top producer, I have a great attitude. As a top producer, I book lots of appointments. As a top producer, I generate a ton of leads. As a top producer, I am a powerful presenter. As a top producer, I show sellers how to pick the right price. As a top producer, I have important information for my clients. As a top producer, I have an awesome business plan. As a top producer, I manage my time effectively. And as a top producer, I make my client's #1 goal my #1 goal. So these declarations, they're not just declarations, they're affirmations. You should have this on your wall, bring it to class with your goal reward, maybe have another one copied and put it on your wall at your office. Very important, okay gang? So we'll put this over here. Let's see what that brings us to next here. So remember, team captains, we're going to meet at lunch. So we'll take a lunch break right now, and then we're going to get into lesson 1. So, how was lunch? Quick, huh? Okay, well, hey, look, I told you the hardest part of the course is the morning or the first segment of lesson 1, the administration part. And you know what? Just because you got through it, take your right hand, stick it out like this. Go ahead, all of you online too. Put your hand up, grab your elbow right here, bend it over, give yourself a pat on the back because you got through the hardest part of the course. I'm serious, it is the hardest part. It really is, because it's about you committing. Once you get past and you just keep going, it just gets better and better and better. It's going to be amazing for you. It really is. And you know what? Doing this since 2002, well over 20 years, I've seen some amazing results. And from some of the places where you never thought, like you think, I don't know if it's going to work for this one, or I don't seem to have the right attitude, and next week their attitude's, they did a checkup from the neck up. They got that hurdle out of the way, and all of a sudden they're talking to people. Now, sure, their next hurdle might be that they're having trouble booking appointments because they don't know how to convert. Okay, so they struggle with that a bit. Affects their attitude a bit, but they keep pushing past that. They get it, they got to work through this. Next thing you know, they start offering to meet more often, and some people are saying yes. Go figure. And then it brings them to the next hurdle. Okay, now they're going on appointments, but they're not getting any listings. They still need to practice their listing process, and they need to know their forms. So please read your forms a minimum of 3 times a week. So now they get past that hurdle, they start to get listings. But maybe they weren't very good at pricing, or maybe they weren't good at protecting their commissions or getting the right length of time. So they don't have a saleable listing, and they're having some struggles. So they got to work through that next hurdle. So all our lessons have all the solutions as you go, right? Let's say you get past that hurdle. You start getting listings, then they're selling, and you're getting more and more and more. That's great, but there is another hurdle. I've had people, and I've experienced it myself, making $400,000 and not budgeting myself properly, not paying attention and going, holy cow, all of a sudden I got to pay taxes and I don't have the money to pay them. Mismanagement of my money. Okay, and luckily I learned how to get past that, and I've been teaching how to get past that for a long time. So but that could be the next thing. And then there is another hurdle after that. Here you're making good money, managing good money, paying your bills, everything's great, but you have no life. So again, that's our time management segment as well, right? So let's talk about the 8 keys. Remember your top producer declarations? The first 8, because the last one is just saying, as a top producer, I make my client's #1 goal my #1 goal. Okay, and the reason I say that, you'll hear this a couple of times, but realtors can get a little narcissistic, I guess, or just complacent.